Hello and welcome to the Superhero Show. I'm Chris Tilly, this is Jeremy Renner, and this week we're going to be talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, X-Men Days of Future Past, and Captain America the Winter Soldier. But first up, why am I calling you Jeremy Renner?
Because I'm evidently not Jeremy Renner.
But some people think you are.
So in the office for a long time, people have said I look a little bit like Jeremy Renner. I've actually had it in comments on IGN videos.
Agree, he does look a bit like Jeremy Renner.
And I dismiss it because, you know, it's fine, whatever. I'm not Jeremy Renner. I'm just not. I'm my own person, Chris. And last week I interviewed the cast of Captain America, and I sat down to interview Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans at the same time. And as I sat down, and we do have this on tape, it did happen, I'm not lying. Scarlett Johansson was like, he looks a bit like Renner. And Chris Evans was like, he does look like Renner. So I could be in the Avengers. Obviously Hawkeye, so not the best Avenger.
Not yet, but we'll see.
He's still an Avenger.
He's still an Avenger.
And Scarlett Johansson recognised it.
And I believe we have a little bit of the footage. So Rich, can you run that footage?
Hi.
Renner, how are you?
Oh yeah, you do look a little bit like Renner.
A little Renner-ish.
You said that on camera. Everyone tells me that. I'm very flattered with that. Obviously, I don't.
He's a very handsome man.
Thank you. Thank you. You mean Renner?
fuck him.
You mean Renner? Okay, cool.
You are an attractive man.
Thank you, Chris.
So how did the junket go?
It was good. They were all very nice.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the film later. So the second half of the show is going to be a bit spoilerific, so maybe watch that once you've seen the film. But first up, I think we're going to talk about the news, which is more kind of trailer-centric this week.
Yeah, a couple of big ones dropped this week.
Yeah, which one do you want to do first?
Let's do X-Men.
Right, X-Men Days of Future Past dropped to the beginning of the week. Prior to that, we've only had the teaser. It's not like Spider-Man where there's been 40 trailers. There's only been a teaser for X-Men.
Yeah.
So this was a lot more footage, a lot more stuff, a lot more future Sentinels, a lot more supporting characters. What was your kind of initial reaction to it?
Well, I think last week I was moaning a bit about X-Men and I was being a bit negative, even though...
When we sat down to watch the trailer, you were like, I don't want to see this, I don't want to see this.
Well, that's because I don't like watching trailers, even though it's my job, because I like trying to go into a film knowing as little as possible, which is impossible. I do a stupid job if I want to do that. But yeah, no, so that was the reason. But I'd been a bit negative last week about X-Men because I've been so excited about it, and then things I'd heard or spoken to people in it or the pictures I'd seen put me off a little bit. I'm back on board. I am back on board now.
It was something we talked about last week. Is actually, I said it was the film I was looking forward to most in 2014. But one of the reasons I was looking forward to it was kind of a slight trepidation around whether it was going to succeed. Even though after coming off First Class, loving that, kind of a little bit worry about the follow-up.
Yeah, and for me, this is the first trailer that it's the tone that I kind of wanted from this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like the stakes have really been raised.
It looks like a lot of characters are getting killed in the trailer. Like Storm's killed in the first shot almost. So we know that the film, a lot of it is going to be set back in the period setting in the 70s. But the whole thing's going to be intercut with scenes from the future. There's almost kind of like a Back to the Future thing where characters are kind of dying. And you know that they're dying and Storm's dying and... Blink's dying, but there's still the hope of redeeming them because it's a time travel narrative.
Yeah.
But you got to see a lot more future stuff than I thought was going to be in the movie, and it looks a really bleak and depressing future.
Which is what I'm all about.
It's always about bleak and depressing future.
But it looked like more that Dark Knight universe where I'm really going to feel what's happening to these characters.
Yeah, whereas Marvel have gone for, we'll get onto Captain America Winter Soldier, but they do definitely have the tone of a Marvel film, whereas this is darker.
Yeah.
It looks darker, it looks more serious. I don't think it looks as kind of... doesn't have probably the gravitas that some of the Warner Brothers movies are striking towards, but it's somewhere in between.
And Fassbender looks like a badass.
There's a brilliant shot in the trailer where he just he's not even looking at the guys behind him and he just waves his hand and they all go flying into the air. In the first movie, he had to really concentrate to harness his powers, but now he seems like a supreme villain and badass.
So that's actually now superseded. Guardians is the one I'm most excited about.
Okay.
But I can't change my vote, so...
No. But we were doing box office as well, which is different to interest.
And I think I've won that one.
Yeah, I think so too.
So we really like that trailer, I think it's fair to say.
So this next trailer, slightly different response.
Yeah, we didn't really like it.
The Teenage Mutant
Ninja Turtles.
Which is now Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not Ninja Turtles.
No, but the Teenage Mutant was written quite small.
Very small.
As we pointed out in our Rewind Theatre that we did. I don't know, there was something about that. It lacked, considering it's the first trailer from the movie, it lacked the wow factor for me that made me just sitting there thinking, I have to see this movie.
Well, we watched it quite a few times.
We have,
yeah.
Weirdly,
because like everyone wanted to see it, and it's almost one of those things where you wanted to gauge other people's reaction. You're going, "Am I alone in my response to this trailer? Like, am I slightly dead inside?"
Yeah.
But I think it kind of fell flat with a lot of people that watched it with us. Now, Alex, who we work with, he actually read a lot of the comics growing up, and it completely fell flat. But what was your main problem with it, do you think?
The turtles looked a bit too CGI to me. This looked like CGI from about 3 years ago.
Is it the quality of the CGI? Do you think it's the look of them? That's like a slightly different question, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. You see, you only got brief glimpses of them. Like, you want to see them interacting with each other and the humans. And obviously there was only one moment at the end where they had, a bit of banter.
Speaking to.
And then
I thought Leonardo, when he falls down and he stood there, I actually don't think that looks that odd. I think obviously as much as a 7 foot talking turtle will look odd.
They're big. They're certainly the biggest turtles we've seen yet.
It's more than Michelangelo bit at the end when he's speaking that was. It's also lips. This is the thing that the internet has reacted to: the fact that they have lips.
Yeah.
And I've seen some people on Twitter going, "Oh, why are you overreacting? If you can go with turtles, you can get on board with the fact that they have lips." But I can get on board with the fact there's big Ninja Turtles, but they have a distinctive look to them, and you don't want to betray that. The Michelangelo bit is weird at the end.
I wanted a bit more William Fichtner as well, who's obviously playing what we believe to be Shredder, because
someone who wants to accept the mantle of Shredder. They've updated that character quite a lot.
I mean, it's hard. It was only, a minute and a half, so...
I think it was more than anything, actually, more than the Michelangelo thing at the end. I think it was the snow sequence that kind of, a lot of people kind of recoiled a bit at. Again, it's just a minute and a half trailer. You can't, these are not final conclusions.
Yeah.
But just... It seemed like a lot of the trailer, tonally, they were trying to go quite dark and serious. That this city, again, like the RoboCop thing, even though it looks like a very nice city, apparently it was on its last legs, it looked fine. And there's the turtles were these saviors, and they're going to be quite mysterious. But that bit when they're like in the snow, like sledging down the mountain, that seems like very broad comedy.
Yeah. Well, they're teenage turtles, aren't they? I mean,
like
is that
so?
So it's trying to get your head around what the tone of it is, and I don't think it's fair to judge it based on a minute and a half. But I think it's fair to say we're a little bit underwhelmed by it.
And it's not because we don't like turtles. I adore the turtles. I grew up on the turtles. It was my favourite TV show as a kid. My mum made me a Michelangelo outfit out of curtains.
What?
Insert picture. But that's true, and I want to see more of it. But just as an initial trailer, even though the end film might be great, I don't think it wasn't a great teaser trailer, was it? And we've seen a lot of great teaser trailers recently.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something that we weren't underwhelmed by.
Something we really, really like. So, first to say, if you haven't seen Captain America Winter Soldier, maybe come back when you have.
Yeah, we're going to do spoilers now.
Yeah,
because we've got our video review up on the site, which doesn't have spoilers.
I think we should
review.
Proceed with the question. It's what Roth said in our review. Is it the best Marvel movie? Would you go as far as that, do you think, Chris?
No.
What would you say is still the best Marvel movie? For me, it's the Avengers still.
My two favourites are Avengers and Iron Man 3, actually. So, two of the most recent ones.
How far behind those does Captain America?
Not far. I think Iron Man 3 is probably my favourite, actually. Avengers 2. And maybe Captain America, maybe this is number 3, which is big for me because I wasn't, as I said last week, I wasn't a huge fan of the first movie, but I think they did a very clever thing here by, two things. It's turning into an espionage thriller, so changing the genre somewhat, and then making Black Widow and Nick Fury as important as integral to the plot as Captain America, because he is a slightly bland character. And so by making those two characters who are a little bit more interesting up to the forefront, it just makes the whole film more interesting. It makes him more interesting, it makes the film more interesting.
We were talking about this the other night. I think the way that Marvel are dabbling and accepting genre conventions actually really plays to the strength of the Captain America character, which is kind of boring. Tony Stark ridicules him for being a Boy Scout, being earnest. But what you've done, by using the template of a 70s conspiracy thriller, you make a virtue of his earnestness and his trustworthiness. So in a genre where everyone's deceitful, you can't trust anyone, it's actually good to have a moral centre that you can get really behind and hold on to. And within that world, that character actually makes suddenly a lot of sense. And also, what's great about Winter Soldier is it really kind of takes this kind of very pure character and puts him in a world, But the world also draws on a lot of recent things, a lot of contextual things like Edward Snowden, Freedom Act, Patriot Act, all that kind of stuff, and kind of mulches it down to make it feel, even though it's a big comic book movie, a little bit more it's got a bit more substance to it.
Yeah, it's really smart. It's a really smart script.
And the plot's good.
Plot's good. I mean, one thing I could have done with is maybe some more twists and turns, because as soon as Robert Redford showed up...
It's what we've kind of spoken about for a bit. You kind of did think Robert Redford was going to Red Skull himself.
Yeah, well, that's because you said that to me, and so I was waiting for him to do that. That's annoying.
Robert Redford did say, like, quite a few months ago that he was the villain. Like,
yeah, but I mean, even if you didn't know that, though,
you can see it coming miles.
Yeah, he walks on screen, and you know he is. And I would like them to be in a couple more twists and turns. I mean, it was quite cool though, taking one of Hollywood's most famous left-wing, supporters and making him a really right-wing character in the movie. I quite like.
Toby Jones' character reappears.
Yeah, that was great. That was unexpected.
Really cool. And that's also kind of an ambiguous villainous character that can sustain himself in the Marvel movies as this artificial intelligence. Quite like that he's been retained.
Yeah.
And he's been woven into the origin story of the Winter Soldier. But what I really liked about the Winter Soldier is, obviously, the Avengers is the huge, lucrative, premium Marvel property. And you don't want to get into a situation where you're knocking out these individual standalone movies as just to keep it going. It felt like this was a really important movie to see.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that happens towards the end with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra, that's going to have lasting ramifications across all the future Marvel movies.
It changes everything.
Yeah, it's not like an incidental film.
Did the cast of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. know about this?
Did the writers of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we just started the second series. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to really work.
Oh, I'm sure they've got a plan in place.
Screw them.
But yeah, no. So what did you think of the Winter Soldier himself?
I thought he was pretty terrifying. I don't know if he needed all the kind of mascara.
No,
for one scene, but that seems to go away in the next scene. I don't know. I don't actually know why he had mascara in one scene. He looked like he was in The Cure.
My Chemical Romance, I was thinking.
But at the same time, I thought he was an effective antagonist. Like, there was something about the sound design that was cool when he appeared. There was this like siren noise that tried to make him very scary.
Yeah.
But my favourite thing about Captain America Winter Soldier was the fight choreography. And trying to make him feel more superheroic. Like, he is a hero. He's a guy that wanted to be a hero, became a hero. And in the comics, they describe him as an Olympic level athlete. Whereas in this, he's very much a superhero. Like, he can do things that no other person could do, Olympian or otherwise.
Yeah.
And right at the beginning of the film, I think they really set the bar when it's a stealth mission. And one of the first things he does in the movie is he throws a knife into someone's hand. And right away, you're like, oh, that.
Yeah,
I didn't think Captain America would be doing something like that. It's a little bit more kind of visceral.
Yeah, and as you said,
it's a word that's overused.
You can feel the influence of the raid a little bit in the movie and the fight scenes, which can only be a good thing.
Yeah, but when he's like punching people, they're going like flying, or the bit where one of my favourite things when he's in the lift, really close quarters action. Yeah. But
what about Falcon? What do you think of him?
Falcon was the only point in the movie that I thought was a little bit of a weak link. Not so much the actor playing him, Mackie, but more. It's more the wing stuff. Like in a film where everything still has a veneer of kind of heightened realism, the wingsuit just looks a bit out of place, I think.
A little bit campy, maybe.
Yeah.
But hey-o, it's introducing the character, isn't it? In the same way that there was a story this week, Robert Downey Jr. talking about Hawkeye having a much bigger role in the next Avengers movie. Good. So maybe that'll be the same with Falcon, that, maybe wasn't the most... interesting character in this movie, but it's just seeding for future.
I think it's what we're saying. You really like Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
And this movie, it's like just making it a little bit more of an ensemble, taking the spotlight a little bit away from Chris Evans and spreading it about, especially with Captain America. I think that's really important because you've got a whole S.H.I.E.L.D. universe to bring in.
Sure. It's just cool to see them mixing up the formula a little bit.
Yeah.
Because Thor: The Dark World did really feel quite formulaic, and it felt like we've come to the end of this now. They need to change things up, and they have with this and Guardians of the Galaxy this year. That's two entirely different genres that they're sticking the superhero.
Yeah, but overall, I thought it was great. We'd love to hear what you think of it as well. Like, I'm sure you'll see it this weekend or in the coming weeks if you don't live in the UK. So let us know at IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com.
Yep, and we've had some emails about Captain America already. I've got one here from Chase Muir who says, what stories would you like to see adapted into Captain America 3? Now, did you talk to the directors, the Russo brothers, about?
Yeah, I kind of skirted around it because at the press conference in London, I think Sebastian Stan kind of let out the bag, even though I don't think they've confirmed it since, is that he signed a 9-picture deal.
Wow, I hadn't heard
which
that.
is crazy for the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
But if you know your comic books, the Winter Soldier is very recent, relatively recent Captain America story to adapt for the big screen. There's loads of stuff that came before, but they focus on this very recent story. And it's the precursor to another very famous recent Captain America arc where Captain America is assassinated. And obviously, putting 2 and 2 together, he's got a 9-picture deal. Will they ever have a situation where Chris Evans dies and is replaced by Sebastian Stan, who takes over, Bucky takes over Captain America in the comics? I asked them about this, and I think it's also borne out the fact that Chris Evans didn't sign a 9-picture deal, he only signed 6. But the Russos, I know.
This is all news to me.
I guess crazy stuff. But the Russos are saying they can't imagine anyone else but being Captain America than Chris Evans.
Yeah.
And Sebastian Stan said the same. Mm-hmm. Captain America 3 is very much going ahead with Chris Evans as Captain America. So if that is pursued, wouldn't expect it anytime soon.
Down the line.
But we've been talking about this a lot on the show, is this idea of permanence. Mm-hmm. And making decisions or recasting characters when certain contracts lapse.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about that this week, even because Robert Downey Jr. said that he knows that there'll have to be a younger person playing that role pretty soon.
Yeah, and Joe Russo, the director of Captain America, when I spoke to him, he said, it was a really nice quote. He said, like, our culture has reached an obsessive point with these characters that we want to be attached to these characters all the time, but because we want that, we have to reinvent them every few years. We have to reboot them to keep them fresh. And he name-checked the Bond series as a point of inspiration for the Marvel Universe. He didn't say it would happen anytime soon, but he said what Bond does really well is when they recast Bond and they bring in a new actor on board, that becomes a point of interest because it leads to a new interpretation and a new era in the life of James Bond. And so instead of having to be like a kind of an awkward thing to deal with, it actually can be a point of inspiration.
So maybe for the next Tony Stark, they should get Timothy Dalton in.
Yes.
Is that what they were saying? Is that what they meant?
Yeah, they said Mr. Pricklepants is going to be Captain America.
No, yeah, great. I mean, they will need to reinvigorate.
I think it's slightly harder than Bond because Bond is like just one actor and it'll be a bit more messy for audiences, but...
As we say, though, we've seen 3 Hulks already in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Not all the best Hulks, but all really good actors as well.
Yeah.
So it's... Yeah, that's interesting. Did you have any feedback?
Yeah, this isn't Captain America moving away from this now. It says, what do you think of Arkham Knight? This is the new game announced for next gen. It looks awesome. What do we think of it on the announcement trailer now?
Well, I would answer that question if I had played or seen it, but I haven't.
So what I would do, I would redirect you to the IGN UK podcast. Is one of IGN's finest podcasts.
Would
you agree?
Yeah, I'd say it's in the top 1.
Yeah, pretty much. I got to see it earlier in the week and it is fantastic. We talk about that in much more detail in the podcast. We've got a written piece on site and a video detailing everything in that game. But if you're a fan of the superhero show, you'll be definitely a fan of that game, I think.
Yeah. And before we go, I think we should just do one more Captain America thing. Let's talk about the Easter eggs.
Yes, let's.
How many are there? There's 2, 3?
I think there's 2 main ones.
2 main ones, okay. So we've got the Winter Soldier one, post-credits.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant the other one.
Okay, there are 3 then, aren't there?
There's one little one in the middle where they're talking about S.H.I.E.L.D. monitoring superheroes, and they talk about Bruce Banner being a very dangerous individual that the government would like to keep tabs on.
Yeah.
And another person they name check is Stephen Strange.
Yes.
It's the first time Stephen Strange's name has ever appeared in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
That's pretty exciting.
And we've got a video going up on site probably next week talking to the directors about that Easter egg.
Yeah.
And actually, it didn't come from like Kevin Feige. It wasn't mandated. Can you seed Stephen Strange? It actually came from the Russo brothers. Like, we'd quite like to name check him. Is that cool with you, Kevin? And Kevin was like, yeah, I like it. It's like, we're not committing you to anything. He's like, no. Let's just try it. Let's see how the response is to it. We've got to do it sometime. It's like that's really awesome. It's a really tiny little thing.
Yeah,
but in the screening I was in, everyone was like, "Oh,
it means a lot,"
yeah.
And it means it's coming sooner rather than later. I think
it's
which
happening.
we all think
It's happening.
Yeah, and then we've got the Winter Soldier one,
which is not really much to talk about. That's him saying he knows he's Bucky.
Yeah.
he knows who he is. He's probably reclaiming his identity ahead of number 3.
Which is a bit of an anticlimax because it comes after the really juicy one.
The one directed by Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon. So it's leading into Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
And we get our first look at Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch.
On Strucker as well.
And yeah.
Yeah, so he's stolen Loki's scepter from the Avengers, and he's kind of experimenting on it, reverse engineering it, or doing something with it. And yeah, 2 new heroes.
Yeah, and I really like the look of both of them.
Well, we've spoken a lot about Quicksilver and X-Men.
Yeah.
This is a first look at Aaron Johnson as Quicksilver.
And he is stacked. He's been working out.
Yeah, and there's some pictures released this week off the set of him, and he is pretty big.
And so we got to see him zip about his cell that he's in.
But it's the tone of it's really dark. It's like they're almost both going insane. What do you think of Scarlet Witch as well?
I think I said to you, I thought it reminded me of J-horror a little bit. The way she looked.
There's something really grimy about it.
Yeah, it was dark and
she had the white eyes like Storm has.
Yeah, terrifying. I love the look of both of them actually.
Yeah, it sounds a bit obvious to say. Almost made her look slightly like a kind of modern witch. That sounds obvious to say, but I really like the treatment because obviously we've spoken on the show about how you make that costume work for screen. You make it work by not using that costume, obviously. And I really like what they've done with both of them.
Yeah, it's just annoying we've got to wait however long now.
Also, what's really interesting, the first time we've had in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, mutants. And they don't really refer to them as mutants.
I don't think they're allowed to.
So, yeah, because that's an X-Men word. So they refer to them kind of... Von Strucker uses more kind of mystical, magical language, almost seen in the kind of Stephen Strange cosmic universe, using more ambiguous language, which I thought was really interesting as well. So he refers to the age of miracles being upon us. That's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really exciting. So yeah, I mean that was a great way to end the movie as well.
Yeah,
they're so good at these Easter eggs now, aren't they?
Damn them.
And my favourite one, I won't say what it is, but if you haven't seen the film or you didn't see it the first time, look out for what's written on Nick Fury's headstone at his grave, because that's a really cool in-joke.
I asked him about that. It was, he didn't have much to say. He was like, it was my decision. Okay.
And was he all right? Was Samuel L. Jackson all right? I'm a bit scared of him.
I was a bit scared of him as well. Yeah. He's wearing a I'm not Lawrence Fishburne t-shirt.
Which is very funny.
He's a scary man. He's a cool man. But you should be scared of Nick Fury.
Yeah. Cool. And so all those videos will be going up over the next week, will they? Everything you spoke to them about?
Yep.
Including what Samuel L. Jackson's favourite superhero is.
Yeah.
And it's not Marvel.
I know.
So yeah.
He'll be in trouble.
Check that out. So where do people write if they want to
So as always, you can contact us on Twitter, were you? At Tilly Tweets. At Krupa, or IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com. Still haven't done that email address, but sod it.
One day.
Yeah.
Cool. And that's it for this week. So thanks for watching and tune in next week.